camera or an RGB. But for now, we're going to look at a narrowband image of the Orion Nebula I took recently. So let's take a look at PixInsight. This is the telescope I took it with, the Great Orion 200. I had it next to me when I did the Horsehead Nebula. Now it's outside on the mount. It's a very capable little telescope if you can collimate it and correct the tilt properly. It is running at maximum spec with a full-frame camera on there and some Chroma filters. I am actually going to be focusing a bit more on the Officina Stellare RH200 for a while, as I'm testing a large 14-inch Meade telescope for a friend. This is also an impressive telescope if properly configured and specifically flattened. But for now, let's take a look at the Orion Nebula. Let's take a look at the data that I captured. Let's start with hydrogen, because hydrogen is always very impressive. Now, at first glance, all astrophotographers will say, well, you blew up the core, you should do a high dynamic range composite, which means you take another set of exposures at 5 or 10 seconds so that you can capture the trapezium and other stuff. Sure. The problem is that a lot of the modern cameras like the QHI600 or the QHI268, they have a lot of dynamic range. So the data isn't lost. It's just for now blown out. It can be easily recovered, or so I thought. So this is about 5 hours of hydrogen. The star gets very bright. It doesn't need a lot. It's very dusty. The whole region is full of hydrogen gas or hydrogen dust. And as you can see, it's actually pretty blown out in all channels, including oxygen, excuse me. There's actually a decent amount of oxygen in there. There's some weird star artifacts that we'll take a look at in a bit. And sulfur also looks really good. Now, the object is quite high on my sky, and that makes it a lot easier to image. There's not a lot of interfering lights, but the stacks look incredible. I wanted to get more data. I wanted to do RGB stars, but unfortunately for the next 2 weeks, it's going to rain or it's going to be cloudy, so I don't have the luxury of doing that. For my next targets, I'll try to explore getting RGB stars. For me, it's about capturing nebulosity. It's about capturing the dust formations that are out there. It's not about necessarily the stars. This is not a scientific endeavor. This is more of an artistic one, and to make people interested in the beauty of space. So let's take a look at the stacks. Now, this is the reason I wanted to make this video, is because I actually did something different. I applied hydrogen to the luminance channel because hydrogen is also the channel that has more data, and the surroundings of the nebula, as you can see in the image on the screen, has a lot of dust that I wanted to capture as a luminance layer. So what I did is regular image, I just stacked them using sulfur for red, hydrogen for green, and oxygen for blue. In this case, I kept that, but I added hydrogen in the luminance channel, which gives it the resolution of the image. The luminance channel always gives the not Christmas, the holidays, and the colors just give the color. They don't give a lot of detail. So in this case, this is the one time I recommend people do a hydrogen as a luminous layer, because it will actually look incredibly dusty and pretty cool actually. So after I stacked the channels, I had two options. This is the one where hydrogen is the luminous layer. As you can see, the dust is pretty visible, and the color is a little bit off because, again, the luminous dominates everything, but that's fine. My aim was to kind of capture the nebula and the dust around it, almost like you would capture it from a Bortle 2 or One Sky, where the luminous channel has a lot of dust. So as you can see, there's some issues with the framing. I had to crop it. I had to, you can't really deconvolute this one because the core is so blown out that it will destroy it. So I chose not to deconvolute this image. There is some other stuff that I've done here, but the simple steps to describe is I cropped it, I stretched it, I applied this CNR to remove the unnecessary green, did it invertly so I can remove the magenta off the stars. Then I did a mask to mask the nebulosity that I actually was interested in, and then I did the HDR multi-transform, which focused on bringing back the core, which it did, and it looked really good. After that was done, there was no color mixing. It's kind of the same. I pulled out the stars and focused on the nebulosity, did everything I wanted to the nebulosity until it was in a place that I was happy. And then I went back to the original stack that was stretched, and the dynamic range was applied. I pulled out the stars. I looked a little bit on this. There's not much to do. The stars are actually really good. And then I applied the nebulosity back onto the stars, and it looks like this. So this is the nebulosity. And as you can see, I actually pulled the quad in pretty well. The quad itself, sometimes if the stars are too big, the star removal tools might not be able to remove the trapezium, but it's fine. When you bring back the stars, it's going to be okay. In this image, the stars were already kind of reduced a little bit, but importantly enough, the trapezium stars were there. And also the image that I had in my head about having a dusty background and a colorful nebula came to be. It's actually impressive. I would love to have the Running Man Nebula next to it be in the regular colors, which is a reddish bluish image, but we're talking narrowband, so it's just hydrogen. So after I was done here, I decided to test out Russell's new process called Blood Exterminator, which I think is a very interesting process. I've bought it when it came out. Russell is also a very, very good astrophotographer. He recently won an Apod, and I applied it, but I applied it rotating the nebula a little bit, and the results, I have to say, are very impressive. He took something that didn't exist, a bunch of processes that were pretty convoluted, and you had to do it in Topaz or you had to do it somewhere else. There was star reduction, and he just made it into one great tool. I think it's one of the game changers for astrophotography these days. My advice to anybody who thinks processing is hard, it is hard if you make it. If you understand your workflow and what you want to achieve, there's plenty of tools to help you. You shouldn't have to process for 10 hours. This processing took me less than 30 minutes, 20 minutes at best, because I have a process that I follow and I don't really question myself. If I get the result I want, I'm happy. Rarely do I spend more than 20-30 minutes on processing an image. It's again, it's about the results you want to get, the image you have in your head that you want to achieve. Once you achieve it, you can try again if you want some other time, but you have to understand what will your workflow produce and what do you want it to produce. Now, I'll do more tutorials about how I process in the future. I recently did a live processing tutorial for TS Optics in our December live stream, where I processed the Rosette Nebula taken with a larger 12-inch telescope. Feel free to watch that. I'll link I will link the video in the description. And this is my Orion Nebula in narrowband. It is everything I want it to be. Impressed with it. I'm happy with it. I'm curious to see what other people think. If it's a good image, if it's a okay image. It's all about personal taste, and for me, it is what I wanted to achieve. If you're interested in more tutorials or the workflow that I follow more specifically, or you want to get some of this data to play with, leave a comment below. I'm thinking about creating a Patreon for people to have access to that, and also for more tutorials that I can set up. My vision on processing is that it's focused around results. Things can be done the same way in different software. You just have to know the result you want, and then the workflow will be built on it. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you like my videos and my work. Again, this is my version of the Orion Nebula, and I hope you enjoy it. See you in the next video. Hopefully I'll have more clear skies to take some images and bring some more cool deep space objects to you guys. Happy holidays.